What's up, quadcopter fans? HiringADrone.com. Today I'm going to be doing a video with the SYMA X5C Explorers onboard camera, 2.4 gigahertz receiver, transmitter, about standard. There's the controller. These are all fake buttons down here at the bottom. When I got this, it was in mode 1, so in order to put it in mode 2, I believe you hold this to the far right, this button B, power on, and then it switches it into mode 2, or it might be to the left hand side. So I'm using a new camera today, the Mobius. Better sound, a little bit better quality than an SJ4000 on the head. So the video might be a tad bit off, cutting a few things off. I'm not sure where exactly the camera is pointing at the moment, so I'll have to mess with that a little bit. But we're got an onboard camera on this. I believe it's shooting at 2 megapixels, so hopefully we'll capture some footage. So we'll go ahead and we'll turn on the quadcopter, turn on the transmitter. We need to bind the two. They are bound, the light's on. Now in order to record, you're supposed to hit this button here. I don't see any indicators telling me that we're recording though. So I think we're recording, pushed up on it. Hopefully we'll get a little onboard camera too. I did not bring the owner's manual with me, and so I'm not sure if I'm recording. So mode 2, this is your speed buttons, high, low, top, left. This is your 360 inversion, so your flips right here on your right, your trims, I really wish there was a indicator showing us that we're recording or not recording, so I'm just going to assume that we are. Once I get a little bit more knowledge with this, and I'll be able to figure out whether or not it is. So I'm going to take it easy with the SYMA today. And my controls are backwards. So I'm going to go ahead and land this. So mode 2 is not the actual mode 2 that I'm accustomed to. It said it was supposed to come mode 2 from the factory. This must be a mode 2, which is actually mode 1 because all the controls are backwards. So I'm going to go ahead and put it back into mode 1. So I'm going to go ahead and power down the quadcopter, power down the transmitter, and then we'll go ahead and we'll hold this to the right, turn the power on. Now it is in mode 1. Go ahead and turn the quadcopter on and bind, and we'll go ahead and hopefully record. So there's some sticks around here. We don't have a clear spot to take off from, so I'm going to do a launch from my hand. Okay, now that makes more sense. Those are the controls that I am used to. So even though it says mode 1, which is typically not used for North American flying, it's the mode that they usually send them out in to the US. So mode 1 is actually mode 2. Mode 2 is most likely the European settings. So it handles well. It feels like my SYMA X11 Hornet, which flies the same. There is some throttle dropout I am noticing, you know. This is in the low mode. So this is a camera bird, so I wouldn't expect it to be too fast and snappy. Plus this is the first time I'm firing up the motors. They are gear driven motors, so you know, it's a little bit noisier than you would expect from you know, a quadcopter of this size. It's those little plastic gears just spinning like crazy to keep it up, but holds its position well. There's a slight little wind blowing to the left, and I was messing with the trim considerably, so I'm going to go ahead and try to trim this to the right and see if that will help out trim my ailerons there. So the wind, like I said, is blowing to the left, but flying good. Like I said, I don't want to get too crazy with it just because the motors are not broken in, so we'll do a low slow flight for the very first one. 500 milliamp battery, so it should give us a little bit of flight time, probably about 5 minutes or so. I'm not going to do any flips with it just yet, but we'll hover it right here, take a good look at it. Looks cool, looks just like a DJI. You know, I'm assuming that's what it's supposed to look like. This is, you know, mid-size. It falls right in between the category of, you know, like something along the lines of the X8, SYMA X8, a tarantula, and then you would have, this would be, you know, obviously a mini in that category. Now I don't like the light settings on this. I like my greens in the front, oranges in the back. But this is supposed to have a considerable amount of range on it. There are some range mods too with the transmitter to get even further. I believe you're probably going to get 100 plus meters with this. So far everything's going good. Nice smooth flight. Just not too sure about the camera. If I'm recording, you would think that there would be an indicator on the transmitter to let us know whether or not. And I'm not too sure about the angle. The angle looks to be almost a 45 degree angle or so. So we might be getting a lot of ground footage as opposed to anything on the horizon. Now I do have the Mobius camera. I have seen some people using the Mobius and actually strapping that onto this little bitty quadcopter. It looked like it held it for a short period of time, but you know, you probably burn the motors out fairly quick. They are small motors. It does have plastic gears. I have a tarantula that uses more of a brass or copper type gear, and then a plastic white gear that spins the motor. Throwing on a GoPro or an SJ4000 was just too much weight, and it would burn those gears out, burn the motors out, which I'm assuming will probably happen the same way with something along the lines of this. So probably going on maybe 3 to 4 minutes of flight time. So fly out, very, very smooth flyer. I'm not going to put it into the fast modes just yet. We'll let it break in on the first flight. And I'm assuming it can do some flips if it's got the 360 aversion button on there. So we'll fly it out there. There's some decent range on it. Pretty far out. Come back with it. Now I have a Skytech M62, and it's fairly similar, and I believe it's a knockoff of some sort of SYMA product, and it looks almost the same, about half the size, half the price. It does come with an onboard camera, more of an indoor flyer, can fly outdoors. But it has the same flight characteristics, nice, smooth, steady flyer, very, very easy to control, very easy to maneuver. So we'll take it up. I'm not sure what happens when it loses binding with the controller. It could go fly off on its own, or possibly just drop out. Would prefer it to drop out, but some of these minis do have a flyaway tendency to them. I didn't see anything that would indicate that it has a return to home, any type of headless mode, so I don't think that that's something that this quadcopter offers. I could be wrong. Again, this is the very first test flight. You know, Hopefully, like I said, we'll get some footage out of it. Hopefully the camera is recording. It came with the 4 GB micro SD card in there, so the wind's picking up a little bit, blowing in from the left, and no issues fighting into it. You'll notice that it does have a little bit of throttle dropout. If you come down in between, 75 to 50% or 50% to 25, and that big of a drop, you will see this thing drop. But you can cut the engines on it, hit back up on the throttle, and it should take off just fine. I launched it directly out of my hand. You could probably throw this thing and launch it too as well. But nice flyer. So there again, we get a little bit of dropout with the throttle. So we won't push it. We'll just bring it in here for a landing. Find a nice level spot to land it on. Since the grass is a little bit taller than the prop or the landing gear on here. So I'm going to turn the transmitter off. That's always a smart idea on these, because then when it, if it does hit your hands, or if your hand hits the throttle, it doesn't just motor chop into you. Not that it hurts too bad, but so this is the SYMA or SYMA X5C Explorers. And you see the gear motors down here below it, but very cool. Definitely worth getting. It's about $50, but I think the range and the different modifications you can do and the bigger battery is well worth it. I don't like that you got to open this bay up every time to charge it, because this camera's on here. It's kind of a little bit of a pain in the ass to do. Might consider relocating the camera depending on how it's shooting, what angle I'm getting. As you can see, it's like a 45, so probably going to get a lot of ground footage with this. But if it shoots fairly decent, then most likely I'll probably or if it shoots all ground, I'll probably maybe try to relocate it up to the top, so that way the angle will be pointing up over the blades and get some horizon shots on it. So if this video helped you out in any way, definitely leave a like. Be sure to subscribe to the channel for more upcoming videos, flight reviews and unboxings.